Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are, and a little bit of a long gap between the last show, but there's a valid reason for it. We've both been so busy, thankfully, touch wood, Steve, touch wood. And so
Indeed.
decided is that we'll do this on a monthly basis now, so that we're still enjoying ourselves, but not as often as we'd like to.
Well, we're enjoying ourselves in other ways, Chris. Enjoying bringing the business back to life. Bringing things back, or bring back better, if you like. One of your phrases, and we're busy and therefore traveling. So it's great to have the full team back in. Back in fully sort of engaged, work with clients, which has kept you and I busy, I guess, for the last few weeks, which is why we've not been here. So apologies to our listeners for that. But yeah, look, here we are. It's good to chat to you just a few hours after I last did, but that previous one wasn't recorded.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very good, very good. And for those that don't know, just offline, we were talking about words that one can't use over the airwaves, or you keep them from private words, but how many uses you can have of a couple of those very special words. And with that in mind, and people's imagination going, and I know you love to get the old juices flowing, so a little bit of a two-sided coin here. We got inflation going through the roof everywhere, and every forecast is being broken on the wrong side, obviously. And then we've got so many people wanting to go on strike. I mean, for me, it's, I could use some of those words, but I know you're going to do it much more politically correct and using your professional dialogue. Let's see what your feedback is on that.
Yeah, look, Chris. I mean, a difficult time for everybody. I mean, everybody's in a similar boat, particularly with the cost of living pressures, and of course it affects some people, more than others, and we've got that sort of polarization, if you like, between the one end of the spectrum and the other. But the way I look at this is that, I mean, it's great to have the opportunity, to have a conversation about work practices or rates, collective pay deals, etc. I mean, that's always a good conversation to have. And I think the problem is that these inflationary pressures, let's hope they are temporary to some extent, and I'm sure they are. And temporary could be next 6 months, it could be the next 3 years, but the economy always settles down again. The problem is that wages will never go back down. So I guess when pay awards are being discussed and being agreed now, and I've just seen some today, awards that have been proposed by their firms, 10-11%, they've been rejected by the members, which beggars belief, really, because I think as we sort of as this settles down and things sort of start to plateau, if you like, will the unions or the employee groups be as willing to then sort of give some of that back? Well, of course they won't. We know that creates precedent. It's now kind of locked in, if you like. So I do feel that some of this is we just lost you, Chris. You just disappeared. I think you've vanished from our screens.
I'm still here.
Oh, you're now back.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened there. It's just you went blank on me. I thought you'd sort of
Don't worry, I didn't ghost you.
thought you'd had enough. But you understand what I mean, Chris? So this sets precedent, and therefore does that not add to therefore the inflationary pressures? Because what happens to those those wage increases have got to be paid for by someone. That someone is the customer, airline in our business, for example, and ultimately the passenger. So you end up with this sort of this spiral, this virtuous circle, if you like, of continuing having to fund inflationary pressures causing a downtick in the economy, increased wages being passed on through consumer pricing or air cargo pricing or freight pricing or handling pricing, whatever, and the customer, the passenger or the forward or the agent or the shipper having to ultimately pay more. So how much of this is sort of reactionary, if you like, and therefore what does that mean for the work groups, the labor groups who are sort of they're trying to sort of shake the tree, and I completely get that. But when you listen to some of this nonsense that we hear, not from our sector, but from the railways, for example, that you can't get any change in work practices. They've got to send teams of 9 people to change a light bulb because they can't work in isolation. Guys that are based at King's Cross can't walk 3 minutes over the road to work at Euston. I think the government are right to hold out on this. I think they're absolutely right to sort of say, look, you guys are having a laugh. Meantime, millions of people are suffering because these fellas are going out on strike. Now we've got the strikes now planned for British Airways, who've voted for action on the ground staff. I think that was Unite and GMB. I think it was GMB actually. We've got this school holidays upon us. Well, I think schools break in a couple of weeks' time until the end of August, and certainly they do in the UK anyway. And people that are looking forward to a well-earned holiday, some who will not have been abroad, Chris, probably since 2019. So 3 years, because most people tend to go have one big summer holiday for 2 or 3 weeks of the year, and that's kind of your lot. So when they've not been away since 2019, and then there's now the threat of strike action and flights being cancelled, and people left put up on not even put up in hotels, but put up on airport floors, or mountains of bags, because people are just walking out and saying, "No, we work into rule." I mean, I think that's pretty shoddy, actually.
Also,
and therefore, there's no sympathy, Chris, for the public will have no sympathy whatsoever. I watched Question Time last week when Mick Lynch was on. I don't know if you saw it. Mick Lynch, for those not acquainted, is the General Secretary of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union. And he was palpably booed by the audience, a very left-wing audience normally, of course, chosen by the BBC. Yeah, right. Independently and for the balanced political views, what a lot of bullshit. But of course, as Auntie always does, it tends to represent the left of centre, and therefore people that would generally be supportive or in solidarity with the comrades, to put it a different way. And they weren't. They thought this is outrageous that that his union would bring misery to millions and millions of people up and down the country. So I think, look, I've got no sympathy at all. Get back to work, you lazy sods, and get back around the table and actually engage properly with your employer about embracing changes to work practices or innovation or technology. And I think it's all for the better, Chris.
100%. Yeah, technology, agility, all the things we were speaking about. But ironically, I think what they're doing by going over and above what are pretty fair and reflective offers is they're actually starting the end of many people's careers, because it won't last, like you said, and then people are going to be forced out, and then the ones that are going to be left are going to have to address the thing that they should be addressing now, which is the capability
practice. Exactly. Yeah.
Practice and efficiency. And then there's a much smoother road ahead. So it's madness. But another thing that's of interest, or to me, I found it interesting, was and Warwick Brady made a statement about it as well for Swissport, because of the fact that so many of the hubs have been forced to reduce flights because of labour shortages. That's quite rightly not the problem or not the fault of a GHA who wants to step up and recover and do as well as they've been doing recently. So they're losing business through no fault of their own. So how do you feel about leveraging that particular issue by suggesting that there would be some sort of legal or lawsuit or compensation for having business taken away from you for no reason of your own?
Well, that's an interesting proposition. I think, look, it's great that Warwick can say that. And for those who don't know, Warwick's the CEO of Swissport International. But I suspect that Warwick is not alone. Some of his operations and some of his businesses across the globe will be particularly struggling. I was in Australia recently, and Swissport Australia is really struggling for resources. I mean, really, really struggling. We know that in Manchester they've been on front page news. So I'm not telling anything out of the secret. It's been in the Manchester Evening News. It's made the Transport Select Committee in Manchester Airport as a ribbing. And a lot of that driven by Swissport's inability to recruit people. We know that the other ground handlers, airport security providers, cargo handlers, the whole shooting match are short of people. Now, the one thing I would say is there has to be a reality check, Chris. It's a bit like Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. You remember we had that just in a meeting just about 2 or 3 hours ago, Chris, that we were on.
We did.
I shan't tell our listeners or our viewers what that was about, but it was very well made by an esteemed client of ours in making a point about something, and I do think that's right, because I think there's a reality check required. And what I'm saying about this insanity piece is, continuing to expect that you can operate everything. Airlines continuing to put capacity in when they don't have the checks and balances on the resources, continuing to sell flights that they know or they suspect could well be cancelled prior to operation. If I'm going to put a flight on sale, to use the airline example, then I bloody want to make sure that flight is going to operate, and I give every possible chance and effort for that flight to depart as I promised to the customer. That means ensuring that the right processes are in place around forecasting and developing a tool around, or a forum around generating an outlook on crew establishment, on ground handling capability, on potential airport slot conformance and how they're conforming with the slot alleviation and whether they need to operate flights or not operate flights, etc. Where they've got potentially some, I don't know whether it's aircraft issues or whatever, but essentially doing a check and balance. Here's what's on sale from a production perspective, and here are the available resources. That means we've got to dial down capacity to be able to deliver what we sold to the customer. It's much better to take capacity out early, in my view, 7 days, 14 days in advance, consolidate flights, give people options and plan, particularly because at EC 261, 14 days, of course, is the trigger. And therefore, I would be suggesting that airlines do need to take some of that capacity out. Now, the unfortunate product or byproduct of that, I think the unfortunate product of that is that people like the airport operator will miss out the fees and the revenue for that. People like the Swissports or the Donatas or the Menzies of the world will miss the ground handling revenue for that. But isn't it better to offer a sustainable product to your passenger who has purchased often these flights 12 months in advance or 6 months in advance, and they know that you can operate to that schedule, rather than hoping that we'll bring these guys in, hoping that we'll get the IDs through, hoping that the 14-day referencing check comes through earlier, hoping that we'll get the cabin crew past the line, hoping that we'll get. I mean, hope is pretty futile in the current environment. So I would say, look, I hear you, Warwick, but we're all in this together. It was all very well, cutting and taking people out at the right time, and I think I was a big advocate of that, Chris. Go deep, go hard, go fast, and could be used for another analogy. But in terms of the people front, but at the same time, we've got to realise that bringing people back on board takes time, and therefore, if the resources aren't there, even if you've got the resources, your customer that you have partnered with over many years, EasyJet or Ryanair or British Airways or Lufthansa or American Airlines or whomever, may not. And therefore, it's the right thing to do to suck it up and to say, look, we will do what we can to help you. And I'm afraid that you're not going to get the turn revenue for that flight. But isn't it better that we operate 90% of the schedule at a planned level, rather than pulling capacity at 24 hours or 40 hours before or in the day of travel?
Yeah, no, there's many different ways of looking at it. But the last 2 flights I've been on, one of the things that hit me was, there was lots of messages going out, messages on your phone saying, get to the airport 3 or 4 hours before your flight because there's huge queues and all this sort of stuff. And so many people did. But the ironic thing was that there was no queues at check-in. It was as smooth and as quick, and it was virtually empty. And then when you went to go through, the queues were phenomenal.
Well, look,
but the one
here's
thing
something literally just come through 2 minutes ago. This is an advert from EasyJet. It just popped up via my EasyJet app saying, book now, save up to 200 quid on your summer holiday. Sale ends the 18th of July. Now, EasyJet have got themselves, and they're probably in the biggest pickle of any airline, because they've got themselves in a bloody great big mess. And it's very sad, because I'm sort of see myself as EasyJet alumni. And what a mess they've got themselves in through they were in a mess before COVID with cost creep and, their CASK resembling much more of a full service carrier than that of their low cost competitors. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, I won't say who, but they said that, and they're a very, very efficient, European LCC. They said, we no longer see you as a competitor nowadays. They've got zero ability to compete with us. And that's really sad. So EasyJet are sending out all those promos, and they know fine well that in a few weeks' time, they'll take more capacity out, more adjustments, and piss off more families and more children who've not been on holiday with their parents for 3 years. I think that's an utter sin. So if you're going to do it, take the capacity out now and be honest to your customers, but critically, be honest with yourselves that we can operate rather than hoping for the best, because hope in this environment is not going to get us very far.
No. And it's such a shame, Stephen. It's so many things just will not give up. And once you think you got over one hill, there's another one bigger ahead of you. It's madness. But one day. Now, the other thing is, another love of yours, Qantas. Qantas cutting routes, QR, but Qantas cutting domestic flights, because of the fuel prices going up. I mean, that's also tough now. So everybody's being hit from all sides.
Fuel is a big problem. It's been creeping up for the last few months. I mean, it sort of shot up around April sort of time, but it has been creeping up over a period of time. But if you look, 12 months in from where we were, it's 100%, it's double the price. So, I think we yesterday 160 or 158 or something a barrel at Singapore. So, I think that is a problem, and we're going to see. I think we're going to see things get a little bit tougher before they'll get better. But now is the time for business to, they've had the benefit of the cash coming back into the businesses, with people buying and now getting more confidence to travel again. That's obviously helped from a cash flow perspective. But now, therefore, is a time to knuckle down and do the hard yards and make sure that your business is fit for purpose. I've seen over the last few weeks, I've seen a couple of airlines. I'm not suggesting Qantas is one, because actually Qantas is as you know, is a pretty mean machine normally, but they operate in a very, I wouldn't call it a very special environment, but they operate in an environment where it's been two brands, two airlines for a very long time, and Qantas is the much stronger of the two. They've got 70% domestic capacity share. The frequent flyer program is amazingly strong, and so Qantas are in a probably a pretty good place, better than most. But some airlines, Chris, did not do the hard yards over the last 2 years and allowed themselves to get a little bit fat and happy, unbelievably so, when they should have been doing the hard yards, and that will pinch now. I mean, you look at the pay deals. The American Airlines pay deal for pilots earlier this week was at 14%. I think it's a 14% award, something along those lines. 14%, Jesus Christ. So this is going to continue to spiral. So fuel, labor, inflationary pressures, yada yada yada, all challenges ahead. But the good thing is, people want to travel. They expect to be able to travel. This sort of somebody said before, revenge travel is a good thing. Sure, I think that's great, but also remember that you're going to have to pay more for your travel.
Aren't we just?
The 30 quid flight. I mean, you flew down to Murcia, I guess, or Almeria, did you? Almeria was your...
Almeria.
Yeah. How much did you pay out of interest, Chris, this time?
Can't remember because we booked it up long time ago.
Oh, early. Right, okay. Right. Well, I mean, I'm looking at inter-European flights of less than 2 hours. Normally 100 quid maximum. That's kind of what you're looking at. Looking at 400, 500 quid. It's pretty phenomenal. As you know, with our team in the Philippines, Chris, we've been trying to get people out of Europe into the Philippines, and when you could normally get a business class return for $2,000, you're now getting an economy return for $2,500.
Yeah.
So it's look, but if you want to travel and you want to go somewhere, well, stick your hand in your pocket and fork it out.
Exactly. But to end on a bit of good news, but I mentioned Qatar there earlier. It was interesting that they made an announcement. The chief made an announcement that he's going to cut certain routes, to help other carriers with their slots for the World Cup for that 30 days.
Oh, he's so generous, so admirable. What a wonderful thing to do, Akbar. I mean, really admirable.
But that's going to be a great. I'm actually looking forward to see how it all works out, because it's going to be so weird, watching the World Cup without being able to just pop out the back of the garden and have a good barbecue and some drinks with friends and stuff. It's going to be very different.
We know that Akbar doesn't do anything for without self-purpose or for self-praise. So there's method behind his madness, I'm sure. So yeah, good luck to him. I think Qatar should never have had it in the bloody first place, but there we go. That's another view. It's a different topic. I watched a very interesting documentary the other day on the whole thing around FIFA, the corruption in FIFA, and how that Qatar business was awarded. It was fascinating. Fascinating. I'm surprised that that very few people, are actually none, are in jail, because probably the Emir of Qatar, along with others, should all probably be locked up. Sepp Blatter, whatever the Italian fellow was called, what was his name? Gianni. Do you know the Frenchman? Was it it was head of the French FA? So I think Qatar should never have it in the first place. But there we go. Stranger things have happened,
and probably will continue to do so in this wonderful business and industry of ours. So on that final,
are we done? Are we done? It seems so short.
Blown by, mate, because it's now on a monthly basis, and you're looking forward to it so much. That's probably what it is. And then
I always look forward to talking to you.
You're ready to go. You're on a roll.
I know that you suggest sometimes that it's easier to get hold of the Prime Minister than it is to get hold of me. But in all seriousness,
a unicorn doing his dailies.
Anyway, look, no, it's good. But I'm surprised that it's finished so early. But there we go. That's like good things come in. Well, I don't know. Short, quick, sharp bursts, I guess.
Yeah, but for those that were astute, they would have picked up on a strategy of yours that you very subtly slid under the covers there. Very good. Very good. I picked up on it, mate. Very sweet. I shall remind you after this. But listen, thanks very much. Good luck. Keep busy, and we'll speak to you in a month's time.
I'll speak to you probably in half an hour.
Right, son. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Chris. See you.